Welcome back. Today we'll be finishing up the Macintosh Classic project, but I also want to show you some products that were sent to me free of charge by CAIG Labs, makers of De-Oxit products. They sent me a sample can of De-Oxit D100. This is a solvent-free electrical contact cleaner. This is safe for plastics, dissolves corrosion, improves contact, protects surfaces, and again, no solvent, so it should not affect or harm basically anything you spray it on. We also have a can of De-Oxit Gold G5. This is specifically formulated for cleaning gold-plated contacts, and it also protects the contacts from further corrosion. We also have a sample pack of, these are pointer sticks. These are used for working the solution into tight spaces and contacts, and barrel type plugs. And we also have the optional extension straw, which can be added to the can of D100 to allow it to be sprayed into small crevices. And that is that. The D100 works by spraying a metered amount of solution onto the surface being treated, and does not really have much of a flushing action, but that's where the Gold G5 comes into play. This stuff will spray and flush out contaminated contacts with ease. In this video, we're going to be using these products to clean the corroded wiring harness connector that goes from the analog board to the logic board. Stay tuned. And I hope this is the last installment of this particular video project. So this is the classic Macintosh Classic from 1991, and we're going to finally finish it up, move on to something else, because I have had it with this thing. The amount of work I've put into this computer is probably more than any computer I've ever worked on. To recap, pun intended, what we've done here, we have washed and recapped the entire motherboard. That's all 8 capacitors. We have, oh, yes, one more thing. Remember that whiny, noisy, grindy hard drive that this sucker had? The old Quantum LPS? Well, that has been replaced. We didn't do a video on this because it wasn't really anything that seemed to be worth videoing, but I bought this hard drive off eBay. This is a 160 megabyte IBM drive. This is a genuine Apple OEM drive here. We put this in because it actually sounds a whole lot better. The drive had some pretty bad spindle bearings. It would make some very scary sounds, even though it still works. I decided to opt for a more cautious approach, and I bought a used drive. Now, there is an option we could actually go for, kind of a pseudo SSD solution. That's the SCSI 2 CF, I believe it's SCSI 2 CF adapter, which allows us to install a compact flash card in place of a mechanical hard drive. And for myself, that's not the kind of restoration project I want to. That's not what I do here. I try to keep things as original as possible. I don't do SSDs in vintage computers unless it's an absolute last resort. For example, if I ran out of 2.5-inch hard drives from my PowerBook 170, I would consider an SSD. But that's a very expensive jump. You've got to buy the adapter, which is around $75 or so, maybe $100, and then you've got to buy a compact flash card as well. So, that gets expensive very fast, and really should be a last resort, in my opinion. I paid $40 for a used hard drive with a warranty, a 30-day warranty. So if it goes bad, they'll send me another one. No big deal. And like I said, the old Quantum drive, it probably just sat too long unused, and the grease probably congealed, and there you go. The thing is, these old hard drives, they used roller bearings, sealed roller bearings in their spindles, whereas modern drives use like a fluid bearing, and those roller bearings, they do wear out, and when they do, it can be catastrophic. So anyway, To finish up this project, we're going to finish installing this hard drive, of course. We're going to pop it in there. We're also going to be doing, this is the last thing I was waiting for. This connector here has a lot of corrosion, and I want to do something about that. But before I do, I've got my, my glue gun here. I wanted to, I had to replace the bead of glue that holds the neck board on my CRT. And I'm going to apply a new bead of glue on that, just to replace what doesn't really work anymore. So nice bead of glue. I'll put 2 on there just to be safe. That's just to prevent the neck board from falling off during shipping. It's not really critical. It's not going anywhere, but I figured why not? I got the stuff. Let's just do that. So anyway, let's just cool off. Okay, now that that's settling in, I'm going to take the we're going to take the board over to the sink, and we're going to clean this pin right here, and why not clean them both? Here we go. All right, so for this, I'm going to use my D100. This is the solvent-free formula, and I'm just going to spray it right in there. Right? Here, let's take this extensive straw off. We don't really need it. There we go. Now this is a metered spray. It's only designed to work like a pump spray. So just spray it on there. Let it do its magic. So it's designed not for a continuous spray, but a metered pump type action. Okay, so let's work on this harness right here. Now, the instructions say to spray the D100 in there first, so that's what we're going to do. But we're going to wrap the area with a paper towel so it doesn't get everywhere, and we're going to just sort of spray the stuff in there. Into each hole. Okay, and then what we're supposed to do is use the D100 Gold as a follow-up to that treatment. So let's give it a few minutes to kind of work its magic, and then we're going to flush it out with the D100 Gold. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the board side, and we're going to do exactly that. We're just going to kind of flush it out with this stuff here. Alright, so now we're going to flush out the wiring harness on this end. Already it's looking much better. I mean, we still see some green here, but that's in the plastic. And this is, yeah, let's see if we can do a better job of that one here. I'm going to stick the straw right into that one connector and spray. Yeah, it's pretty much, you know, it's not coming out, but the connector as a whole does look cleaner, and I do see more metal here than I had seen before, which is kind of a step in the right direction if you ask me. Before, most of these pins had obvious corrosion in them, and now just this one has a little bit, but it's not in an area that matters. It's really just in the plastic. And I'm seeing that the one pin that I was really worried about, which is this one right here, zoom in a little bit so you can see. It's looking a little better. So I would say that this did work. I mean, the stuff is proven. People have used it for decades with success. So I can see that I should have similar success. Now, the last thing we're going to do is pull the floppy drive out. I want to give the loading mechanism a full grease job. It's something that I like to do on these because they do tend to stick up. So let's do that next. Alright, so I have saved numerous Apple floppy drives this way. And you want to ideally catch this before it becomes a problem, but sometimes it's not possible. What happens to these drives is the grease that was used at the factory tends to dry up and wear out. What I like to do is I use a, this is a synthetic polyolefin PAO lubricant. It's called M-Coat EM30L. I use this on my 2GS floppy drives, all 3 of them, and 2 of them didn't eject before. Now they all work just fine. So this is what I do. And these little pointer swabs are perfect for this as applicators. You just get the grease on them like this. And you just dab it in a few key areas. Wherever, anything that is supposed to slide or move, just dab it with a little bit of grease. You don't want to use a lot of it, just a little bit. It doesn't take much. Anything that slides or was originally greased should be re-greased. Paying special attention to these areas here. And what I'll do, these little bearings that roll, I'm going to use a little bit of clock oil on those. I found that works pretty well too. But anything that slides and use this as a way to kind of gain access to certain things and see what's supposed to happen. And then we're just going to dab a little bit of grease in some of those key areas. See right here, you can see where there's tracks where there was grease. We'll get in there too. Some areas we won't be able to get to, but at least we can get to whatever is accessible. Now, if you have one of these drives, and if you have a vintage Mac, you certainly do. A couple of things you want to know. They're sensitive to alignment. Do not loosen up any screws back in this area. Do not loosen the motor. Do not loosen. There's a sensor, this right here, that tells the drive where it zeroes out. Don't touch that, and you'll be fine. I made that mistake when I first worked on one of these. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. That was about 15 years ago, and you know, we all have to start somewhere. We're also going to put some grease, not a lot, on this spiral shaft here. Just a little bit. It's not really necessary, but you know, when in Rome. But like I said, my Apple II floppy drives, none of them worked. They would bind up on eject, and then I'd have to manually eject everything. And, you know, that's not cool. Nobody wants to do that. Get it right down in there. There should be one over here. I'm also going to pull the motor. You can pull the eject motor off and get in there too. You want to look at that. There's a little gearbox in there. You want to get some grease in that too. That works nicely. Very, very nice. Very nice, very nice. This is what's called an auto inject drive. When you have the disc in just slightly, it pulls it in for you. Later model Macintoshes used a manual inject drive. So, alright, to pull the motor off, it's pretty easy. What you got to do, and we're also going to clean the heads the manual way as well. I have a whole slew of things that I do to these drives when I get them in my possession. And you know, I've made some mistakes. I've killed a few drives in the process, but ultimately that's how you learn sometimes. In fact, when I started working on vintage computers, there was no YouTube. There were only message boards, and anyone could post anything they wanted without any burden of proof, and that being the video. I was one of them. I'll admit. I posted a lot of stuff that I thought was true, but turned out to be false. It was the 90s, and nobody really cared. Alright, so you're going to pull this motor off. Don't worry, this has mechanical sensors that tell it what position it's in. In fact, when you start up the machine for the first time, if it's not where it needs to be, it automatically positions itself. And you'll see that there's a little dab of grease. So what this is right here, this is the eject motor. This makes one complete revolution when you hit an eject cycle, and that's what it does. Sometimes I'll pull this board and the motor out. They're held in by clips, but I don't think I have to do that here. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm just going to put some grease on this little bearing here, just a little bit. Replace what's there. You really don't need to grease the gear. That's not necessary. And we're going to put a dab of grease where it interfaces. If you put too much grease, it could create drag. We don't want that. Now, we're going to pull out some clock oil. Really, it's just mobile. I think it's a synthetic 20 weight oil. Very lightweight oil. It's used for extremely sensitive machines. We're going to put a dab of clock oil inside this. This is a little roller bearing in here. It is on some drives, but it looks like not this one. So that doesn't roll. But I am going to lubricate these pivots here. Now these pivots are where the gearing, the reduction gearing in here, you're basically greasing the pivots on those gears. Just get anything we can do to reduce the amount of friction in this device and give it a nice smooth operation. Now these little suckers, these are rollers right here. These are rollers. So we're going to get a little bit of grease in each one. Oil, sorry. Just a dab of oil. Just a little droplet. Get it in there. This is above and beyond what the factory did. But I find that, anything to increase the odds of this drive working a little bit longer is all I'm really looking for. I'm also going to put just a tiny drop of oil, just to create a film of oil on this little shaft here that the head rides on. There's 2 bushings on that assembly right there. We're going to just put just a drop of oil on each bushing. There's only 2 bushings. Okay. I think that should cover it. You don't need to worry about the spindle. It's permanently lubricated. Now this drive was functional when I pulled it. Didn't have any issues. This is preventative maintenance at that point. Because based on what I've seen, they all eventually will fail. And then you've got to do this anyway. Just do it now while it's all apart. Alright, I'm going to reassemble the drive and put it back in the machine, then we're going to continue on. Alright, drive's reassembled. We're going to pop the motherboard in there. It's pretty good cleaned up. So this hard drive sounds pretty good. This is the replacement drive that I found. Don't know how long it's going to last. We'll see. If it in the event that it fails, I may just break down and buy one of those drive replacement kits. The solid state option. I may just do that. I don't want to, because not only do I not want to spend the money on that, but I also like to keep things authentic. And what makes working with these old systems so cool, you know, is the sheer electromechanicalness of this device. You know, it's like a mini record player in there, reading and writing data at the blink of an eye, rather than the speed of light. But look at that, it worked just fine. Now, I need to test that floppy drive out, so I'm going to put a cleaning disc in there first, just to be safe, and then I'll put a real disc in there. But you know what? What the hell? I don't care about this one. Let's put it in. The disc went in very smoothly. Very smoothly. Anything on it? Apparently not. Let's eject it. Here we go. Really nice. Ejected. Now there's a little bit of grease that got on the disc. A little bit of loose grease, but nothing in the near the head area. That's where we want to. That's where we want to make sure that doesn't happen, because that could be devastating. Not only will you ruin the heads, it'll ruin the media as well. Not bad. Just came out clean. So there we go. Ready to go. Now why don't we let's see how she plays. Let's play a game. Let's play a game. Let's play a game. Let's see what we got here. I already put some stuff on this machine because I was messing with it a little while ago. And can she run SimCity 2000? I don't think so. It's going to run out of memory, I bet. Let's see what. Yeah, I didn't think so. Crashed it just like that. Boom. All right. Let's see if there's anything it can do to pull that game off there. A lot of work went into this Mac, a lot more than I would normally put into a computer, but you got to understand that these Mac Classics, I mean, they are from another time, and they were an iconic machine. You know, this was, you know, Apple's winding down of the 9-inch black and white era and ramping up into the 12-inch plus color era, and you know, you got to really appreciate this machine for its utter simplicity, and when they run very well, and they can run for a very long time. I mean, these machines were heavily used in computer labs, in educational and residential environments, and they really were an iconic system for Apple. You can even play Blobbo. I'm a little surprised about that one. It can play Blobbo. Blah, 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 blah. It can play Blobbo. That's pretty cool. I like that. I like that a lot. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load a copy of Microsoft Word and Excel on here. I have it on Floppy, and I'll catch you guys later. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned. I might feature this machine, or I will feature it in a future video. I'm just not sure when or what. Stay tuned. Until then, guys.